Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I wanted to talk to you about three things today, but before I get into them, the IDF confirmed today that it was the toughest day since the beginning of the war. We all know what they mean when they say the toughest day since the beginning of the war. So most likely the day with the most casualties that they had in one day. They had battles on the ground in Jabalia, in the north of Gaza, Shuja'iyya, and in Khan Yunis. The Palestinian resistance released footage showing many tanks being completely burnt to pieces. So the IDF confirmed that today, which means it was the most intensive day since the beginning of the war. But going into today's topics, number one, the Secretary General of the United Nations invoked Article 99. What's Article 99? Article 99 is believed to be the most powerful diplomatic tool in the possession of the UN. It basically pushes the UN Security Council for an urgent meeting and asks it to provide very urgent action without any member of the Security Council calling for it. It was only used twice in the history of the United Nations, in 1959 and in 1961. And it was in relation to Congo and Tunisia back then in both of these instances. So what does this say? This says that obviously the Secretary General himself obviously sees this as something very urgent. We've already seen Israel not happy with him. The Israeli representative in the UN, Gilad Erdan, he even called for him to be sacked simply because he criticized Israel multiple times very harshly, especially during the beginning of the war after their mass genocide campaign. But it looks like the Secretary General is not content with what's happening so far, but he wants more action to be taken. Now, the UN already has many resolutions supporting the Palestinian cause. And so far, most of them have been ink on paper. We haven't been hopeful about any of the UN resolutions helping the Palestinian cause. Ever since the establishment of Israel, they called for the establishment of a Palestinian state. You have the right of refugees to return. You have the right for resistance. You have all of these rights, but nothing's been done. And I think if nothing is implemented after what the UN invoked now, this Article 99, we might as well declare it dead and go to its funeral on New Year's Eve. We might as well just do that. Because after all, I mean, the UN, it was established after World War II. Obviously, it changed. It was the League of Nations, and then it became the United Nations. And really and truly, what has it been doing, really? It has been the soft power of the United States of America reaching where America cannot reach. But there could be a link to this statement from the United Nations to what the Israeli Army radio stated today. The website Al Monitor and the Israeli Army radio broadcast said today about anonymous figures, leading officials in the Israeli government, that they have been seeing increased pressure from the United States to stop the war, an ultimatum. Now, some of those who are more positive, right, they are saying that they're going to give us a month. They're going to give us up until the beginning of January. People who are more pessimistic, they said 2 weeks. However, the confirmation is America is giving an ultimatum. Now, remember, the first round before the temporary ceasefire, it came just after 40 days since the war began. Many analysts said that the so-called international community, it isn't international and it isn't a community. It's the political Western elite powers. That's it. Israel's allies, right? 30 countries. 30 something countries. That's it. There is no, and there most of the powers in America. So when you say international community, that means the United States. No international, most of the world is against this. Most of the world wants the war to stop. Most of the world wants the Palestinian people to get their rights. So know your facts. International community, political, corporate, imperial elite trying to impose its will on the world. But some people said, some analysts said that basically these countries, Israel's allies, they gave them 40 days. They told them, okay, you want to go on this war and you want justification and backing and legitimacy or whatever, fine, but you have 40 days to do that. Because after 40 days, we won't be able to support you anymore. And indeed, several weeks through the war, we started seeing these people starting to criticize Israel more, and saying, okay, we need a temporary ceasefire. In the beginning, remember, no one wanted a ceasefire, so it was clearly agreed. They were saying no ceasefire. Ceasefire means the end of Israel, and this and all this BS. So that happened. Now, what America's saying is clearly you're not going to get a result in demolishing Hamas. And by the way, the ultimatum, these officials in Israel, based on what the Israeli army broadcast stated, they said the ultimatum is to finish this current round of war and reach a full ceasefire. That's it. They said it didn't talk about us withdrawing from Gaza. But it's pretty unrealistic for there to be a very long-term ceasefire without Israel going out of Gaza. So we could have a lower heat, ongoing conflict for a longer period, but not as intense and not at a full-scale war level, because America is clearly seeing that the pressure is too much. There are too many fronts active against American interests in the Middle East, from Yemen, from Iraq. They're targeting them in Syria. Their bases in Iraq, Yemenis, and Bab el-Mandab. Bad, basically. It's not great. And America is not the power it used to be before, and you have the rise of Russia and China in the meantime too. So they're telling them, you have a deadline of basically just before Christmas or leading to Christmas to get this over and done with. This is coming at the same time that they're trying to show this image of victory. So the IDF spokesperson, he said that they are witnessing these massive battles on multiple fronts, and they're even threatening Yahya Sinwar. He is in one of the tunnels, and we're going to reach him. They even had reports of them flooding the tunnel. Can you imagine that? They have water pumps there to drag water from the sea and pump it into the tunnels. Are you being serious? It's similar to those previous reports that they said they're going to bomb them with sponge bombs or whatever it is in the beginning of the war. You don't know, you have no clue where the tunnels are. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You're clueless. You're bankrupt. You're done. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Plus, if you're gonna, it's so stupid. Firstly, they don't know where the tunnels are. Secondly, fill them with water. Well, there's ground, there's mud underneath them. Don't you think the earth will suck the water in? How stupid can you be? Anyway, so stupid. They're all over the place. But anyway, this comes, so these two I think are related. What the UN is saying, so in a way, the United States is using the UN to put pressure diplomatically on Israel, and it's showing them as if, look, if you're not gonna follow the ultimatum and you're gonna tell me I'm gonna do whatever I want, we have this and we will increase the pressure. And there have been talks from the American defense minister a couple of weeks ago that we need to start considering having conditional support for Israel. And if you notice, although everything that Israel is doing in Gaza is atrocious, however, the intensity of the air bombings on Gaza haven't been as bad as they were in the beginning. That's not to undermine any of what they're doing. All of them are crimes against humanity, acts of war, criminal genocide, and still an ethnic cleansing attempt. That's what it is. But clearly, there have been talks in the background about them decreasing the pressure and getting this over and done with. And obviously, you've had the objectives of the war redefined now by the people who used to say we want to demolish the Hamas, like the Israeli defense minister Yoav Gallant, who is now saying we want to hurt their military and control capabilities and release the hostages, and we want to have security control over Gaza. They don't know what the hell they're doing, and they don't know the supposed control. How is it going to be? What's going to happen? You don't know what's happening. They have a metro bigger than probably bigger than the London metro under Gaza, and you have no clue where they are. You couldn't rescue any of your hostages on your own without actually sitting down and talking to Hamas, albeit through mediators. And you're telling me you want full security in Gaza. So that could be something that will make it an ongoing low-heat conflict that can escalate. So we may see, obviously, a ceasefire, proper ceasefire, and a deal that could take months or years. Remember, Gilad Shalit, the deal took 5 years to be completed. He was kidnapped in 2006, and he was released. The deal happened 5 years later, with over 1,000 Palestinian almost 1,047 Palestinian prisoners released. So this could potentially take years, the negotiation, but with the level of pressure and with the quantity, it might be a matter of months. So that's what's happening there. These two could be interlinked. And the final thing I wanted to talk to you about is Benjamin Netanyahu is suspecting the military chief of Israel, Herzi Halevi. There have been reports in Israel that he asked his security to have Herzi Halevi security checked before going in. Why? Because he suspected that he will have electronic devices to record the meeting. So he's a spy, basically. We've had multiple leaks from cabinet meetings previously in Israel throughout the last few years, by the way, especially with the inconsistency of governments and the weakness of the governments in Israel. That's why it had about 6 elections in 7 years, just only purely because of Netanyahu's narcissistic persistence in staying in power, despite the fact that many people don't want to have any dealings with him for corruption charges. And apparently, not only that, it's like a stamp of shame. I mean, the previous defense minister, Avigdor Lieberman, said that it's basically it's like a backstabbing for all the Israeli army. And he's a previous defense minister who was previously an ally of Netanyahu, a close ally, and they later split. And Herzi Halevi apparently showed his real anger during that meeting, and it led to Netanyahu's office later on to release a statement saying the cabinet doesn't have any relation to the security checks that happened with the IDF chief, basically. But this is another sign of the massive split and the chaos and turmoil that the Israeli government is in. Previously, he couldn't make press conferences with the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, multiple times. The last one was a few days ago, but he later did one after a couple of days where they clearly didn't look happy with each other. But now you're talking about the actual army chief and almost somehow blaming him of treason or of being a spy. So I hope I added some information, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Take care.